Good morning. Welcome to Daily Focus. I know you probably think I have forgotten about you. Just have extremely full days. We did have a great time last weekend, Thursday, Friday, with our sixth graders up north at Mackinac Island and into the UP to Tequamanin Falls and some other things that we saw along the way, and just a great group of kids, great group of sponsors. It was a great trip. Just didn't lend itself to being able to do a daily focus. um, for some reason my iPhone refuses to use Chrome. It requires me to use Safari, but Safari won't use Restream, so I can't do this from my phone, which was a little bit of a challenge. But anyway, and then Monday, our golf team had an all day tournament up in the Flint area, and it was fun to spend some time with them walking around and encouraging, doing a little coaching. That was fun. And it was fun to yesterday spend some time with the men of the church playing a golf course up north from here, and was a great time together, a great time of fellowship. But I'm back today. I'm going to be finalizing some packing. As most of you know, June 1st will be our last Sunday in pastoral ministry. We will be retiring and moving to Florida and doing a lot of itinerant work, a lot of traveling. The Lord has opened the doors to so many opportunities, way more than I thought this early into retirement would be scheduled. And I'm looking forward to serving the Lord in that capacity with my wife. And we're just going to have a great time seeing what the Lord is going to do in this next chapter of our lives. So it brings us today to the rest of 2 Samuel chapter 6. Remember, we left David having tried to move the ark of God in a way that seemed to make more sense to him, but it violated God's clear commands. And so pragmatism is still not a good path. Pragmatism says the end justifies the means. In other words, the means are okay as long as you get the right conclusion. We found out no, the way you do the will of God is just as important as doing it. And getting the result is about following the proper process. And Uzzah learned that the hard way. David learned that the hard way. And so he just leaves the ark of God at Obed Edom's house, and Obed Edom's house is greatly blessed. And so we pick up the story in verse number 12. And it was told King David, saying, "The Lord hath blessed the house of Obed Edom and all that pertaineth unto him, because the ark of God." So David went and brought the ark of God from the house of Obed Edom into the city of David with gladness. And here's an important place for us to stop and think about. Sometimes we have to eliminate the distractions. Sometimes we have to eliminate the things that get us off course. And so we find in verse 13 that it was so that when they had bare the ark of the Lord and had gone 6 paces, he sacrificed oxen and fatlings, the things that he thought, let's have the oxen do the work. No, after they had started carrying the ark, he made it very clear, we're not doing that again. We're not going down that path. We're going to follow the prescribed means to get to the end. And so, just a little thing, maybe you're struggling with some sin. Maybe you have some besetting sin that you keep falling prey to. Well, maybe there are some areas of your life you need to sacrifice. You need to eliminate the distraction, the temptation, instead of just leaving it there to wreak havoc with your spiritual life. Verse number 14, and David danced before the Lord with all his might, and David was girded with a linen ephod. Here we find that David sets aside all of his kingly robes and puts on a simple ephod of linen, and worships the Lord, dances before the Lord. I know that this is sometimes greatly taken out of its context. Number one, David was not naked, David was not exposed, and David was not sensually gyrating before the Lord when we hear the word dance. This was an act of worship. This was an opportunity for God to look down and see a heart of David that says, I have learned a valuable lesson. And more than anything, I want and need the presence of God in my life. I think every one of us needs to get to that point where the priority of our life is the presence of God in and upon our lives. You and I have to answer the question, how important is that today? That people see Christ in us, that the presence of God and the power of God is clearly seen in our lives. It was a high priority for David. Now, Michal looks down and she sees this, and Michal is tainted in her view of David's worship to the Lord because she wants something. And so David has created all this internal competition with all these wives and these maidservants and all of the cultural things that complicate marital love. And what Michal wanted more than anything was children. And she wanted the relations with David that would produce children. And she's mad that David is making a priority of worshiping God and being an example to the people of making worshiping God and inviting his presence to be the priority. She wants to be the priority. She doesn't want God to be the priority. She doesn't want the ark of God to be the priority. She has something she wants, and she wants to be the priority. It's a sad commentation, common. I don't even know what word I'm looking for. It's a sad testimony of Michal to want David's attention above proper worship. But anybody can get there if we get that self-focused. And Michal was there. And David confronts her, and he's like, listen, do you not realize how important the presence of God is? I learned a valuable lesson here. And I'm not going to make anything, including you, more important than the presence of God. And therefore, I will play before the Lord. In other words, I am going to celebrate God and his presence and doing things the right way. And then Michal is just mad because she wants a child. And we find that to be true in verse number 23. Therefore, Michal, the daughter of Saul, had no children unto the day of her death. And we realize that David pretty much at that point wrote her off and said, listen, you are not going to become the priority. You are not going to become the distraction. I've made that mistake and I'm not doing it. God's presence is going to be the priority, and I will worship him first and foremost. And, we're going to just not deal with all the complications of the culture and the situation that David finds him in with all of his wives and things. But certainly we see how much drama is being created. And you can feel bad for Michal, as I do, in the sense that this is not God's design, and no wonder she's super frustrated over it all. But I think sometimes we get so sympathetic with Michal that we start blaming David rather than seeing, no, David was keeping his priority right because of the lesson he had learned. Michal had a false God. She had a false idol. And that was that she wanted children more than she wanted anything. And the thing that she wanted is the thing that she ended up not getting, which is oftentimes the way sin works, the way the devil lies, is he promises what he can never deliver or never intends to deliver, and just gets us off track. And so, as the title says, let's make a priority of the presence of God in our lives, and let's keep him first place, and let's worship him in spirit and in truth all day, every day. God bless you. Hope you have a great day. I'll look forward to seeing you again tomorrow.